That's what they've been. I mean, dude, that's what they've been doing. Like I have the Model X Plaid, and for dude, it looks the same as the Model X. Pretty for the most part, that was created, probably almost 7 years ago or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And so they're not evolving in the same way, but also like the cars are still great. Like, you know, I sit in one of them. Like surprisingly, it's still a talking point. Like people get in and they're like, some people have never been in a Tesla before. It's still cool. Dude, but what's crazy to me on some of the car loan stuff is during COVID, I went into a Range Rover dealership, Land Rover, and I walked in, I bought a Range Rover. They didn't like when we're going through the process to get the financing, they didn't even ask like about my income, or they asked. They either asked and didn't ask for proof, or they didn't ask at all. And I was sitting there, I was like, what the heck is happening here? All they did is run my credit. But dude, someone who makes $2,000 a month can have good credit. That doesn't mean anything. And so they come out, the car's approved and paid for, and they give me an option. They list out the options with $0 down. I'm like, you're gonna let someone buy this car with no money down without asking for my income? And so at that point, I was shocked. I was like, this must be normal, but it's just it's crazy.
Yeah, it's the complete opposite. Like back in the day, if you wanted $100,000 loan, it was hard to get. Like I have videos on my channel explaining if you wanted to buy an exotic car, luxury car, something like that. These are the steps you have to do. Traditionally, to get like that Range Rover, you need to have like a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 auto loan, and then they'll let you get $100,000, $120,000, or I think some of them go up to like $150,000 in some of the Range Rovers. But if you didn't have that, you couldn't qualify. Even if you had 800 credit score and you paid off a Toyota Corolla for $28,000, if you try to go to Range Rover and say, I want this $100,000 Range Rover, they're going to just say, no, you can't. But during the pandemic, they just threw all that out the window. And that's what killed like a lot of the luxury market and the exotic car market. People that traditionally couldn't get those cars were able to get them. Like I remember I have like 15 paid auto loans on my credit, and I was trying to buy a Lamborghini Huracan, and I think it was like $220,000. This was like maybe 4 years ago, and I was putting $50,000 down, and the bank told me no. They're like, no, you don't qualify. You don't qualify. When I bought my Audi R8, 180 something with tax, like $200K, right? I went down there. They're like, we can do 0 down at 84 months, or do you want to do something else? If you do 72, we can give you 1.9%. I was like, give me 60 months, 1.9%, and I'm going to put like 60 grand down. And they're like, oh, you don't have to put the money down. I'm like, no, I want to put it down because if the market falls, I don't want to be buried in this thing. I want to be able to sell it and walk away. And because I saw how the market was going up and down pretty crazily, and it blew my mind. People, my personal friends, I won't say their names because I don't want to burn them, but people I know that do not qualify for these cars were driving Lambos. I saw so many people that were ballers on a budget riding in Cullinans, a $400,000 or $500,000 SUV. Lamborghini Uruses were everywhere. Like everybody, like if you come to Vegas, they're literally like Mazda Miatas now. Like you see them everywhere. And I don't know what happened. It blew my mind, and the lending got so crazy. And so now we're sitting back, and this reminds me of '08. Everybody had credit. Everybody had houses. Everybody had things that they really couldn't afford. And, now we're seeing like the watch market fall. People are starting to get rid of their watches. All the crypto bros are getting rid of their G-Wagons because they can't afford them. Exotic cars are going. I'm just waiting for the next shoe to drop when it hits middle America, when regular people start walking away from their cars. Because one thing that I love to tell people, do you know what a Hyundai Palisade is or a Kia Telluride?
Yeah.
Okay.
Telluride's nice now. Like Kia's new cars are like, they're clean.
Yeah. So I
think they poached BMW's designer, right?
Yeah. So the beautiful cars. I remember my sister-in-law wanted one. So I went to the dealership with them, and this was during the pandemic. A dealership here in Vegas had them anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 over MSRP. Wow. So just imagine this, and I did a video about this just the other day. There are people driving around in a Kia that they paid $60,000 over MSRP. So the SUV is $60,000, but they paid that. Same thing with the Ford Broncos. I remember when they first came out, every Ford dealership here wanted $30,000 over MSRP, and they were selling them because I wanted one and I couldn't get one. So now, fast forward, let's say you bought it in 2020. You come now, you're like, okay, I've driven it for 3 years. or 2 years. I'm ready to get rid of it. I want to get something new. I got 30,000 miles on it. You go to the Kia dealership. Hey, here's my 2-year-old Telluride with 30,000 miles. I want to buy the brand new one. I see the brand new one. You have 2 of them in stock, and they're only 65,000. But this customer owes $80,000 on their Kia Telluride, and they get a $40,000 offer trade-in. That's what you're going to see more and more. I call it the negative. The next trend is negative equity, the negative equity bubble. All these Americans are so buried in their cars. Car dealers and banks basically rob their future for the next 2 to 3 years. They won't be able to sell more cars.
Dude, it seems like there's the slimy car salesman, but now it's like the slimy car industry. Is the whole industry and everyone into the scammer?
I don't want to stick up for anybody, but like, to be honest with you, it starts with the banks. Because at the end of the day, just like houses, you can want $1 million for your house, but if the bank says it's worth $700K, that's all you're getting a loan for. Same thing with the dealership. If the banks are willing to finance $80,000 on a $60,000 car, who am I to say, okay, no, don't do that? Dealers are going to want to make money, just like any business owner. I don't care if you sell tacos, clothing, or fluorescent light bulbs. If you can double your profits and there's somebody willing out there to take it, you're going to do it. So I don't blame the dealers a whole lot. They did do a lot of shady stuff. Like, I don't like charging way over MSRP and saying it's supply and demand. That's bullshit. But if
people were buying, though, that's the thing. It's like if people are buying at that price point, there is this thing. It's like, it's kind of the consumer's responsibility.
That's what I tell everybody. Nobody holds a gun to your head and tells you to sign the papers. You did. And so every time I hear, like on my channel, people crying, oh, I paid $30,000 over MSRP for my Corvette, and I'm trying to trade it in for a Z06, and they're offering me something, and I'm $40,000 upside down in my car. You signed the paperwork. Yeah. You wanted that. You were an adult. You said, should I take this calculated risk? Should I overpay? Yes. And now all of a sudden, I think that's why my channel is doing so well, is everybody's, sitting there with their pitchfork and torch, like, the auto industry sucks. Let's burn these bastards down. And at the end of the day, I tell everybody, the automotive industry is consumer driven. At the end of the day, the customers, if you stop buying, we drop the prices. But if you're still buying, prices stay high. Mm-hmm. So for every one educated consumer, there's probably about 2 dummies that are out there that are just desperate trying to buy the car they can't afford.